Dear brothers and sisters, you know, we throw the word around, love, we throw it around a lot. In Western society, we abuse the word. We say it when we really don't mean it. We love things. We love food. We love all kinds of passions. And we throw the word love around when we talk about each other. Probably because we really don't understand what the word love means. Ultimately, the word love means communion, union. So, if I love food or sports or some kind of thing, do we really want to have communion with these objects? And if we really love somebody, that means we really want to have communion with him or her. So maybe that's one reason why today's gospel is difficult for many of us to understand. In antiquity, the word love was a profound concept. Jesus today says, you're to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And in other Gospels, he also adds, and with all your strength. To love God with all your heart, that means that we are to put him first. He is the purpose of our life. In another place, Jesus says, where your heart is, where your treasure is, there is where your heart is. He was using that to describe the danger of seeking after material wealth. So if our true treasure is with God, then our heart will be there. To love God with all our soul means that we are to always want to be in communion with him. To use every last ounce of spiritual strength that we have to seek union with him. And in seeking union, we receive great joy. We receive great fulfillment. To love God with all our mind, Jesus says, I am the light of the world. And we are to fill our minds with his light. We are to think about him constantly. Not in a way that we fear the coming judgment, but to think about think about God as though we think about our beloved, someone whom we really love. And we are to guide our mind along godly things and to fill our mind with things that are upright and good. And to love God with all our strength means that we are to likewise also discipline our bodies in the service of loving God, because we have to carry our cross in life. That requires discipline. Discipline of prayer, of fasting, discipline of doing good works, discipline of crucifying the passions and all of its manifestations. So when we love God with all our heart and soul and mind and body, it is truly transfiguring. It is truly our life. It's who we are. And to love our neighbor as ourselves. He doesn't give any descriptions of how we do that, because we all do a pretty good job of loving ourselves. and we know how we love ourselves. Jesus in other places says, "Do unto others as you would like to have done unto you." He says in the Lord's Prayer, instructing us to say, "Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us." To love our neighbor as ourselves also means to put the other before ourselves. Not to live selfishly, but to live selflessly. Every mother who wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning to take care of her sick child understands selflessness. And we are to apply that element of selflessness to all of our relationships. And when we do, then we fulfill this commandment. We may not always have people answer us in kind. We may even have people betray us when we strive to love them. But we are moved to love because we love God. God's love is supposed to fill us with joy. It's to fill us with inspiration. And when we pray, we should pray out of desire, out of wanting to be in God's presence. And when we set aside our calendars, our schedules to come to church every Sunday, we do that not to fulfill any formality, but we do it because we want to be in God's presence. We want to feel joy. We need His help. We want to be with Him. And when we are moved by the love that we have for God, then we also strive to follow His will. Christ says, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." And sometimes His commandments are difficult to keep. Sometimes the cross that we are given is difficult to bear. Sometimes it is even more difficult for us to sacrifice our own will, to follow God's will, to follow the calling of St. Paul, who says, "It is no longer I who lives, but Christ in me." St. Paul was filled with so much love for God, that it moved him in every aspect of his life for him to say something like that. So, brothers and sisters, when we hear the call to love, it is to be a transfigured love. So if we feel cold, if we feel separate, if we feel distant from God, how do we attain this? First, we attain it with patience, with perseverance, with attention. We approach God with humility, asking Him to have mercy. We remember the prayer of the tax collector, the publican, who said, "God, be merciful to me, a sinner." That's the first words that we utter when we strive to draw close to God. We come to Him with humility. And we come to Him with faith. No matter how little our faith is, we come with faith. And when we do this over and over, we start to feel the warmth of His love. Just as we would eventually feel the warmth of a campfire or a fireplace, the closer we get to it, likewise, little by little, day after day, step by step, prayer after prayer, confession after confession, the closer we draw to Him, the more we feel His warmth, the more we see His light, and the more our hearts are softened, the more our souls are filled, the more our mind is illumined by God's light, and the more our strength is fortified to carry our cross. And in this way, we love him with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, and with all our strength. And then we can complete and fulfill all the other commandments if we learn truly how to love in this way. Amen.